Hey, I'm so glad you're back. I would, if you would believe it or not, have a recommendation for you. I'm Hope Acosta. Welcome or welcome back to Even Otter Podcast. Monday. Abigail is a horror film that centers around a group of kidnappers who target the wealthy daughter of a prominent businessman. They take her to a remote safe house believing they have the upper hand in this high-stakes abduction. However, they quickly discover their captive, Abigail, is not an ordinary girl. She's a vampire with a dark secret. As night falls, the dynamics shift dramatically, revealing that the kidnappers are now the ones trapped with her. As they grapple with their predicament, the tension escalates, leading to a chilling confrontation between the captors and their unexpected captive. The film explores themes of power, fear, and the horror that lurks beneath the surface of innocence, culminating in a thrilling showdown that challenges the nature of victimhood and survival. If you didn't know, Abigail was made by Radio Silence Productions, the film duo responsible for Ready or Not. So, obviously, this film already gets brownie points. And the two movies really are each other's inverse. In Ready or Not, it was Grace being hunted by the rest of the cast, whereas in this movie, it's the cast being hunted by Abigail. This feels super subversive, as in the beginning of the movie, Abigail is the damsel in distress, so to speak. And the audience, the same as the characters, aren't given any information about her vampirism. Abigail being a vampire is something I wish they could have worked harder to hide in the trailers, and before the release of this movie, as I think it's one of those films that is at its best without context. Alicia Weir's performance is incredibly convincing, and if I hadn't known she was a vampire going into this, I think I would have fully bought the face value premise of the kidnapping. There's no vampires in this movie for over the first half hour, and the film does a great job of connecting you to this group of people that would be willing to kidnap a child. And since the characters are put in this position of not knowing each other, it's a really compelling watch to see the tension and mistrust build up within the group before Abigail ever reveals herself. I love the irony that they play with in their given scenario. The characters are so convinced that a threat is going to come from the outside that they almost completely disregard the idea of one from the inside, until they start to turn on one another. If I had any critique to offer Abigail, it's that the beginning of the third act is kinda slow. It's all necessary plot movement that has to happen, but at that point in the movie, it just feels a little lackluster.
What can I say? I like playing with my food.
Abigail gets a 9 out of 10. Tuesday. The Final Girls follows Max, a young woman still grieving the loss of her mother, a famous actress known for starring in a cult classic slasher film called Camp Bloodbath. When Max and her friends attend a screening of the movie in her mom's honor, a fire in the theater leads them to be sucked into the world of the film itself. Inside the movie, Max and her friends must navigate the plot of Camp Bloodbath, while figuring out how to survive against the killer, Billy Murphy. Max is particularly torn as she comes face to face with her mom's character, Nancy, which complicates her want and will to escape. This movie has a fantastic premise, and it really has me debating whether or not I would survive my own favorite scary movie. I want to think so, but probably not. There's a lot of impressive style choices, which are in direct homage to some classic horror movies, like with Camp Bloodbath being so reminiscent of Friday the 13th. A super great Halloween 2 reference at the end, and way too many others to name. I love the different aspect ratios used throughout this movie and how it helps us place what particular setting we're in, because while I definitely find this movie straightforward, there's a lot going on. We're technically moving through the plot of 2 movies, you have the cast of 2 movies, and you have this relatively heavy emotional anchor to the film. It's a lot to get through, but honestly, it's quite impressive how they managed to get through it all in just an hour and a half runtime. The Final Girls gets 7.5 machetes out of 10.
Wednesday.
The Haunted Mansion follows workaholic real estate agent Jim Evers, who drags his family to a remote mansion after being invited by its mysterious owner, Master Gracie, under the guise of a business opportunity. When they arrive, the Evers family quickly realizes that the mansion is haunted by a ghost, and they're trapped there due to an ancient curse. As Jim, his wife Sarah, and their children explore the mansion, they uncover the dark history behind Gracie and his tragic romance with a woman who bears an eerie resemblance to Sarah. The family must solve the mystery of the curse before the spirits, including the sinister butler Ramsley, trap them in the mansion forever. Amid spooky encounters and ghostly shenanigans, Jim learns to prioritize his family over work, as they work all together to break the curse and free the haunted souls. Did you know the Haunted Mansion has some terrible reviews? It's got a whopping 13% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whatever.
That really hits me hard. I'm a huge Disney kid, and I've loved the Haunted Mansion for, well, forever. The intro of this movie is about as unsettling as the ride itself, which can vary a lot depending on when you see it. It's not the most brilliant film, and yeah, it's a bit clunky, but it's got that charming family-friendly vibe that makes it perfect for a Halloween rewatch now and then. Plus, the new version is pretty fun, and in my opinion, captures more of the ride's spooky charm. It might not be better than the 2003 one, but it's a solid addition, if you want to stick with the theme. The Haunted Mansion, by the privy of Halloween ratings, gets 7 out of 10 foolish mortals.
Thursday.
Late Night with the Devil centers around a Halloween 1977 broadcast of the fictional late-night talk show Night Owls with Jack Delroy. Desperate for higher ratings, host Jack Delroy decides to create a sensational Halloween special by inviting a young girl rumored to be possessed onto the show. As the night progresses, what starts as a publicity stunt quickly takes a sinister turn, with eerie, supernatural events unfolding in real time on air. Shot with elements of found footage and documentary style, Late Night with the Devil captures the unnerving chaos that ensues when reality and horror collide on live television. Late Night with the Devil is super entertaining. It's a unique approach to found footage that I don't recall having seen before. Of course, the documentary style is familiar to found footage, but I love the use of this never-before-seen Halloween special. It's a very crafty way to get the audience to engage with the believability of it all. And that is certainly a credit to the dedication they had to making this look and feel like 1977. I know this movie got some backlash for using AI for the art of this movie, which I have mixed feelings about, but either way, credit is due where credit is due. Another great way this movie brings you into 1977 is through some incredible performances. Faisal Bazi and Ian Bliss are perfect late-night guests, and Laura Gordon and Ingrid Torelli make a perfect duo, with Ingrid's performance as a young actress being particularly outstanding. David Dastmalchian, who I kind of always want to call David Dalmatian, is such a believable host. As soon as the broadcast begins, Jack remains on until it cuts to break. This is another clever move the film makes through juxtaposition of black and white shots during commercial cuts, with a much more real behind-the-scenes look at all the characters. It's really effortless in getting the story to move along and covers details we otherwise wouldn't have time for. Like I said, this movie is super entertaining. Until those last 15 minutes. In that stretch, it feels like the film loses a lot of its integrity. All of the effort that went into making it feel realistic seems to get thrown aside for a CGI-heavy ending. The ending also feels pretty disconnected from the documentary found footage style, which is a shame because the scariest moments are when it genuinely feels like you're watching along, just like any other late-night audience member. I really wish they kept that vibe going through to the end. Late Night with the Devil gets 8.6 reruns out of 10.
Friday.
In Us, Adelaide Wilson returns to her family's beach house for a vacation with her husband, Gabe, and their 2 children. As night falls, a family of mysterious doppelgängers who look exactly like Adelaide's family appear outside of their home. These strangers, known as the Tethered, break in and terrorize the Wilsons, revealing they've come to replace them. As the Wilsons fight to survive, Adelaide is forced to confront her past and truth behind the terrifying connection between herself and the Tethered.
Okay? So if y'all want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
Us is truly amazing. Sometimes it feels like there's two movies in one. People sometimes say that Jordan Peele's other films aren't true horror, but that's definitely not the case here. Us works as both a suspenseful horror movie on the surface and a clever social commentary underneath. Peele's attention to detail is fantastic, with subtle references woven in from the start that hint at this movie's trajectory. During the opening sequence, there are so many tiny details that you might miss on the first watch, but they're rewarding to catch in later viewings. And you know, that's part of what makes Jordan Peele's filmography as a director so fun so far, is that he creates these rewatchable, thought-provoking movies that will create discussions for years to come. Us is a bit confusing for it to just have this blunt ending that it does, but that's probably just as intentional as everything else. Us gets an 8.8 out of 10, because I'm not trying to be clever there at all. Saturday. Frankenweenie, directed by Tim Burton, is a stop-motion animated film that tells the story of Victor Frankenstein, a young boy who is heartbroken after his beloved dog Sparky is killed in an accident. Desperate to bring Sparky back to life, Victor uses his scientific skills to reanimate his pet with a bolt of lightning. As Victor's school prepares for the upcoming science fair, his secret experiment draws attention from his classmates. Inspired by Victor's success, they attempt to replicate his methods, leading to a series of unintended and monstrous consequences. As chaos ensues, Victor must confront the repercussions of his actions and learn valuable lessons about love, loss, and the responsibilities that come with creation. We lost one of our dogs last Christmas, and I was not ready for the emotional impact Frankenweenie would have on me. Watching it for the first time this weekend was an experience. I was barely into the first act, knew where things were headed, and I still found myself bawling. It's incredible how Tim Burton uses his signature stop-motion animation in this film, creating such a simple yet meaningful story. On the surface, the plot of kids competing in a science fair, even with Van Helsing's daughter involved, might not seem that engaging. But I love how this setting gives the story a childlike innocence, letting us feel Victor's grief and his efforts to bring Sparky back in real time. Honestly, I can't think of anything negative to say about Frankenweenie. I was emotionally compromised right from the start, but there were so many details that I adored. For instance, even if you haven't seen a Frankenstein adaptation, you probably know the iconic "It's alive" moment.
I think I know what you know I know.
Frankenweenie gives us a heartwarming spin on this, with Victor's "You're alive" moment that feels both sweet and touching in a scene that's often creepy. And the little poodle girlfriend next door, she's adorable. When she sniffs Sparky after he's resurrected and gets those white sparks in her hair like the Bride of Frankenstein, what an amazing detail. And the score by Danny Elfman, super whimsical and just fantastic. It is absolutely getting a spot on my Halloween playlist. Frankenweenie gets 9 out of 10 dog treats. Set in the 1980s, Lisa Frankenstein follows Lisa, a lonely and misunderstood teenage girl who accidentally brings a Victorian-era corpse back to life during a lightning storm. Sound familiar? As she navigates her feelings of isolation, she finds an unlikely connection with her undead companion, and the two begin to develop an unusual relationship. Together, they stumble through teenage angst, self-discovery, and the challenges of reanimation, all with a touch of dark humor and romance. Heathers meets Frankenstein in a fun Halloween-ready watch. Set in the same universe as Jennifer's Body, this movie is sure to capture a spot in the heart of campy horror lovers. This is Zelda Williams' first feature film, and I admire the confidence she shows in her direction. There are moments that lean into absurdity without much explanation, but Williams, as a director, and writer Diablo Cody trusts that the audience will go along with it, which makes the events of the film seem way less concerning. Catherine Newton makes an amazing lead. I hadn't really recognized that she was leading Lisa Frankenstein in the trailers until I was about to watch the movie. And I think that says a lot about how well she disappears into her roles. Liza Soberano nails her comedic timing as Taffy. And I don't think I recognize Joe Kress from much else besides Stranger Things, but he perfectly embodies the 80s dad, and I'm so glad somebody else is making use of that. Cole Sprouse's body acting is outstanding. He trained with a mime for 4 months for this role, and it pays off. Even with almost no lines, he's constantly engaging. This movie does start to drag a bit around the 1 hour mark, and I think any steps they could have taken to trim the second act really could have helped. Without spoiling anything, another thing I would have loved to have seen is this coming of age angle they marketed with play out more in the end. Overall, though, it's an entertaining watch that doesn't take itself too seriously. Lisa Frankenstein gets 8.3 tanning beds out of 10 for an amazing undead adaptation. Sunday. The Love Witch, directed by Anna Biller, is a visually stunning film that pays homage to 1960s Technicolor cinema. The story follows Elaine, a beautiful and enigmatic witch who is on the quest for true love. After the sudden death of her husband, she moves to a quaint California town where she uses her magical abilities to attract men and fulfill her romantic desires. However, as Elaine becomes increasingly obsessed with finding the perfect partner, her enchanting charm begins to have dark consequences. The film explores themes of femininity, love, and the dangers of desire, as Elaine navigates her relationships with various suitors. As her pursuit for love spirals into obsession and violence, the consequence of her magic and societal expectations of love reveal the complexities of her character and the lengths one might go to for romance. I was really looking forward to watching this movie for the first time. I had seen scenes on TikTok for years now that I found funny, intentional, and a little weird. And I like weird, but wow. This movie was weird. Stylistically, it's stunning and perfectly captures the look and feel of the 1960s. And I've gotta say, Samantha Robinson is incredible. She's gorgeous, completely committed to her role, and definitely deserves way more screen time in other projects.
I'm talented that way.
That said, I really struggled with her character here. She's meant to be unlikable and embody a certain fantasy, but it just made the movie feel tough to sit through, for me at least. The dialogue, though sometimes clever, has a tendency to come across as flat, and as if I'm on the outside of a joke. I hate to admit it, but I ended up fast-forwarding through the last 40 minutes. By that point, what felt smart at the start of this movie started to feel repetitive and even lazy.
You sound as if you've been brainwashed by the patriarchy.
If you're up for something different, give it a shot, but I don't think I'll be revisiting this one anytime soon. Gotta love a harpsichord, though. The Love Witch gets a 5 out of 10, because that love spell did not win me over. Oh my gosh, we're here! The final week of Halloween with Hope, and it's a delicious dive into classics. Tonight, we're celebrating Monster Monday with the original 1978 Halloween. To finish off thematic Tuesdays, I've got a scary movie I've been recommending for years. The 2019 movie, Haunt. It's not perfect, but come on, it's Halloween. Whimsical Wednesday has to finish with the ultimate Halloween classic, Hocus Pocus.
Sisters!
And for the day we've all been waiting to celebrate, Halloween. Join me for the final Halloween with Hope episode, where I'll be rewatching and ranking all of the Scream movies, 1 through 6.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Thanks for tuning in, fellow Halloween lover. May your last few days of October be filled with more treats than tricks, and just the right amount of scares. Don't forget to bring your garlic, silver, and sage back on Thursday as we dive into more Halloween madness. Until then, keep the lights on, the doors locked, and I'll see you next time.